Broncos at Raiders is the next matchup I want to talk about here. Nice little AFC West showdown. Broncos feel like a surprise team certainly this season. Not that people didn't think that they weren't maybe going in the right direction, but it feels like they are ahead of schedule. It feels like both them and the Los Angeles Chargers are ahead of schedule here, and those look like two teams that not a lot of people expected to make the playoffs. I feel like maybe the Chargers, if you had a lot of faith in Jim Harbaugh, but certainly with those two teams in playoff position now, it's exciting to watch. And now these games are we've got to really pay attention to this one, certainly on the Broncos side of things for this this playoff picture in the AFC. What's your matchup that matters here in this one?
Yeah, the Raiders are kind of getting left behind in the AFC West, which
Yeah.
I think that we thought that it was going to be kind of crowded at the bottom, and that's not the case at this point. I'm looking at the Raiders' run game in particular because do you know, Trev, there were 9 different players last week that recorded a rush against the Dolphins. Do you know how many rushing yards Las Vegas ended up with at that game, at the end of that game?
Oh, it's probably very low, isn't it?
60. 60 rushing yards despite 9 different players recording a rush.
That's bad.
Gardner Minshew attempted 43 passes.
9?
That's
9 players?
9. I know. I thought I was looking at the receiving stats at first, Trev. Like when I was like looking at through the box score, looking at like the different stats from that game, I was like, are we sure? No, we're sure. Okay. I mean, like some guys, like it was just like one gadget play or like one jet sweep or something, some type of end around coming out of the backfield. But still, you had 9 different players touch the ball on the ground, and yet you couldn't get anything going on the ground. And Gardner Minshew, it was up to him to throw the ball 43 times, which is not a recipe for success if you're Las Vegas right now. You're also going against Denver, which has a top 5 rushing defense, 4th best EPA per play defensively against the run, 2nd best overall EPA per play allowed on defense, period. They have the 4th best overall grade. So this is a very, very tough defensive unit. We've talked about it over and over and over again, and it still deserves more talking about as far as what this Denver defense is under Vance Joseph and how much they've really bought in to what he's doing there. Vegas needs to get multiple and needs to do as much as they possibly can to stress this defense because what they did last week against Miami just ain't gonna cut it.
I just still can't get over the Raiders.
I know.
So, Broncos offensive line, I think is playing like one of the best in the NFL. I really do. Over the last month, they're number 1 in the league in total pass blocking grade as a unit. I also think they run the ball very, very well, certainly out of zone blocking scheme sets. They're not great when it comes to man and gap scheme blocks, duo, middle of the tackles, all that kinds of stuff. But it's not like they're terrible in that area either. Raiders are 29th in the NFL in total pressures that they have produced. So the Broncos offensive line and the Raiders defensive line has to be the matchup that matters for me. Bo Nix, when kept clean this season, he has a very high completion percentage. He has almost 2,000 yards passing. He's got 12 touchdowns, which is a top 10 mark when kept clean. Only 4 interceptions, 99 completions, gaining a first down that's 8th most in the league, and then an 84.4 passing grade, which is 12th highest in the NFL. So simply put, when Bo Nix is kept clean, this is a very good offense. He keeps them on time. He is accurate. He knows where the ball needs to go. And often it goes to the hands of Courtland Sutton, who's been pretty fantastic, especially again over the last month. And as Bo Nix has really kind of caught fire here. So as long as that Broncos offensive line keeps him clean, Broncos offense can keep moving as intended. And I don't think the Raiders are going to be a defensive line that's going to get in the way of that this week. But if they're going to beat the Denver Broncos, it's probably going to be the recipe that they need to have. So we'll see. Not a great matchup for them to be able to do so, but that's sort of how I see it. What's your plus factor here?
Yeah. After all that I just made too, it was 7 players, not 9.
Oh, 7, not 9. 7's still a lot.
I was going to say, it's not like none of the sentiments change. Seven guys rushing the ball, and you only end up with 60 rushing yards. That's absolutely, it's still insane.
Especially because Brock Bowers was one of them. I just pulled it up myself. Yeah,
I adore Brock Bowers. First of all, because apparently there's nothing this man can't do, and there's nothing the Raiders offense won't ask him to do.
Yeah.
But I guess, hey, when he's your best player, you do that. I don't know. I must have I might have written down 9, even though I counted 7. I don't know, whatever. It was early this morning when I was doing all my prep on the plane. It was like 6:30 in the morning. Anyway, still point remains. Get the ground game going. I had the same plus factor as you, which was, or maybe it was your matchup that matters about the Broncos offensive line, just given the fact that they have really allowed for this development that we're seeing from Bo Nix. I mean, like, that's the most important part here, is that they are a really, really good unit. And again, it was a unit that we had question marks about coming into this season, and you were wondering if this was going to hold up, if they were going to, I mean, you knew that Sean Payton was capable of calling one of these, kind of short passing offenses, quick game, all that kind of stuff. Was that going to, work with all of the question marks you had there? But now you realize, no, you can rely on this unit. You can rely on the Broncos offensive line. And it's, Nix's passing stats, while kept clean, are great. So that's the biggest part here, is just keep him clean. And to your point, I don't know who is really going to get in the way of that, with the way that this Raiders defensive line is.
I mean, Crosby, but we talk about Crosby every week,
and I keep expecting him to be more of a game wrecker than he has been this season.
It's hard when you just get to key on him. You get to chip him, you get to keep tight ends on that side, you can shift protections. Like, it's hard even for a player like Crosby. So
he can't do it on his own, and that he really is pretty much trying to do it on his own, and not just on that defensive line, but you go through every level of the defense there, and it's like pretty much everything is hinging on Max Crosby being effective, and that's just, when you can key in on him like that, it's a fool's errand.
Broncos run game is sort of my plus factor here for this one. You got Julian McLaughlin, you got Javonte Williams, who's playing better now in the second half of the season. Audric Esme is now getting in the lineup as well. It's a three-headed rushing attack, and I feel like as long as those guys have healthy yards per carry averages, which a couple of them, two of them, McLaughlin and Javonte Williams certainly did last week, and we've seen what Estime can do. It was just a low volume kind of a thing for him. I think it's tough when you only get 4 or 5 carries a game to be super efficient, but they're very comfortable with all those guys. And so it just feels like, man, we talked about the Broncos offensive line. We talked about Bo Nix. Courtland Sutton's been fantastic. Man, I was having this conversation with people in the office. Remember last year when, was it last year? When did they trade Jerry Jeudy? When was this? Was this like this year? Has it been that long of a year? Anyways. Remember when they had Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, and it was sort of like, okay, both of these guys are on the trade block. At least that's sort of what we heard. That was the reports. They will trade one or the other, and they're going to kind of.
This is his first year, by the way, in Cleveland.
Right, but okay, so then they traded him before they. Okay, anyways,
yes, they traded him for it.
So, can you imagine if they would have traded Courtland Sutton instead of Jerry Jeudy? They'd have nothing. All due respect to Jerry Jeudy. Like, Jerry Jeudy would not be doing what Courtland Sutton did. Courtland Sutton's been a monster for that passing attack, and it's basically been him and no other consistency. I don't think Jerry Jeudy would have that same success with that sort of volume. Like, Courtland Sutton was basically the only one out of the two who was going to be able to do it. And I try to think of, like, what if they would have traded Courtland Sutton? This team would not have been good. So that was, anyways, Broncos run game, the pass game, the offensive line, it's all kind of gelling together, and I think that they're playing fantastic. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video, and if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can come one today.